Hi, I'm Christopher Ewing, and I'm a television producer based in Hollywood, California. I produce a weekly kids TV show and recently held auditions in Council Bluffs, Iowa for kids who want to appear on the show. A woman showed up to the audition with some of her children, and the story behind this family completely blew my mind. Please take a moment to watch the following video, and if you have any interest in helping this family in any way, please contact me and let me know. Now, here's the amazing story behind this incredible family.
I'm Robin O'Donnell from Council Bluffs, Iowa. My husband Rob and I have 18 children. 17 of those children we have adopted. We started off as foster parents due to infertility issues after my oldest son was born, and we wanted him to have a sibling. And in order to do that, we looked into children that needed a home. I never dreamed of doing this. I thought I would take in 1 or 2 foster children and continue working, and that would be my kind of normal, to have a child come in and then maybe leave to go back home to their birth family. But when that wasn't gonna work and they started to be up for adoption, I thought, wow, these are wonderful kids. I want them. But the problem was there were more and more children that needed a home, and I couldn't say no. We've adopted 17 kids. And Kinley is a very special little baby girl to us. We had already had her brother and sister in our foster home. She knew that she would be put in protective custody, and she was facing criminal charges for the scurvy on Kendall. This is Kendall, and as you can tell from the picture, with her arms out like this, Kendall is our fighter. She's our survivor. She is the one that had scurvy, and when she got to Children's Hospital, they were surprised by scurvy because it's something that you don't see anymore. She was probably 12 hours from being declared dead. And she's the one, when we left the hospital, she had a feeding tube installed. And they said that she would probably never walk, that she would be spending her life in a wheelchair due to the muscle deterioration. And when we left the hospital, we looked at the doctor and the nurse, and we said, it doesn't matter, we will do what we need to do for her. And we took her to Children's Hospital 3 times a week for therapy and services that she needed. And we kept working with her within the home, and all the kids would work with her, treated her just normal, like one of the crew. And within 4 months, she was eating food. We would take the tube out and encourage her to eat. And within 6 months, we had her crawling. And today she's in dance class. She's very spunky, very happy, also very stubborn, and she knows what she wants. And if it's not it, everybody knows about it. So she has her own mind, but hey, she has a mind, and she's thinking, and she's alive, and she's beautiful, and she's happy, and she's healthy. So she's a very awesome little girl. Miss Carissa, my husband and I got Carissa at birth. She tested positive for cocaine, meth, marijuana, and alcohol. She was a petite little thing. She was so tiny that she wouldn't even fit into our car seat. We had to have help getting the car seat tight enough for her. And we had her for a year. And then we worked with the mom, a young birth mom. We worked with mom. And mom knew that she had an addiction and needed help. So mom did go into treatment. And at that time, she became pregnant with another little boy. But unfortunately, for some of our moms that are involved in the drug world, when they come back to their old environment, it's easy to get back on the drugs. And that's what happened to this wonderful birth mom. So her children went back into protective services, and we got Carissa back. And we ended up adopting her and her brother, and mom had another little boy. And when she was at the hospital, she called me and told me that she had another little boy that was going to be placed in protective custody, and asked if Rob and I would adopt him as well. And we believe that siblings should be kept together. And we wanted the kids to be kept together, and we still wanted the birth mom to feel good about where her children were. We knew that she had a family history of drug addiction, and we just were hoping that maybe we can break the cycle with her 3 children and help to have these kids have a new normal. Oh boy, this is Robbie. And when they called us with Robbie, they said they had a boy named Robert, and that's my husband's name. And so we thought that was kind of like, oh, God wanted us to have a Robert Jr. So this little guy, Mom wasn't sure of who his daddy was, and she's a white birth mom with a white birth father, but had an affair with a black man, and thus Robbie was born mixed race, and so she didn't think she could care for him with her boyfriend. So Robbie went into protective services because when he got home, they weren't really nice to him. And so they needed some anger management classes and help. And we got Robbie, was 3 weeks old when we got him. And we've had him ever since. Robbie's a pistol. He loves sports, and right now his thing is wrestling. In wrestling classes, the coaches are telling him that he can do things that can't be taught. It's just something you're kind of born with. And when you first started wrestling, the kids kind of called him a cat, because cats are real quick on their feet and then real quick back up. And that was kind of Robbie. Robbie's very stubborn. He knows what he wants, and he'll keep fighting until he gets it. But on the second hand, if Robbie sees Dad or I sad or notice that something doesn't seem quite right, he'll be right up there with the tender hugs and kisses, and he'll want to take care of us. So he's just a super kid, and he's the one that went on the website and saw an African-American child that needed a home and wanted to have somebody of his culture in our family, which Rob and I had not even, we don't see black, green, red, purple. To us, they're just children. They're all our kids. And Robbie brought that to our attention that, he's mixed race and he wanted somebody of his culture. And we weren't going to shut the door on that. That was important to him, and we want to celebrate his culture. Chad is our special boy. When he was 4 years old, he was involved in a car accident where he basically died at the scene, and they were able to bring him back, and he was on life support and in a coma for about 6 weeks. His facial bones were all broke, the teeth were everywhere. They didn't think that he would live. He's a miracle that he's even alive. Chad has been in numerous placements, around 14 placements, due to a brain injury. Even though he is 12, he functions at about a 5-year-old with his mentality at times. He is a food hoarder, which is, if you've never dealt with someone that's a food hoarder, it's very hard to understand, because when you bring these children into your home and you provide them with plenty of food and they still have the need to hide food, it's very hard. We will wake up in the morning and he will have a box of Pop-Tarts stashed inside his pillowcase. He'll have oranges or granola bars or just whatever he can grab and run real quick under his bed, in the bed, hiding. But Chad had some placements where things went wrong, and they had to remove him during the night when he was asleep, and he never got to go back. So he was used to leaving his home and his bed and his pillow and his stuffed animal and things that he thought was sacred to him. They were gone. So now at night when he goes to bed, he has certain things that are important to him right there with him. And I think in his mind, even though we just adopted him, he still doesn't know if this is forever. It's too soon. It's been over a year. We've had him for 2 years. But for Chad, when you've gone through so many placements and at such a young age, that's his survival mode. It's been built in him to know that, hey, if I'm going to survive and if I'm going to do it, I'm on my own here. I have to do it on my own. And every time my husband and I have to redirect him or discipline him for something, he grabs his book bag and fills it with his things and says, okay, I'm ready. And where are you going? And he goes, well, I'm ready to go on to my next home. And I'll say, buddy, you are here. You're not leaving. This is home. And he says, but I've been naughty. I was naughty. I was bad. And I said, you are never bad. You are not bad. What you did was naughty, but you are not bad. You are just a little boy, and we are here to help you, and you will never go away. And it's really hard for him to understand that, you know what, buddy, you are here. You're ours, and like it or not, you're stuck. Miss Katie is our little sunshine. We did not get Miss Katie until she was almost 18 months old. She was in a situation where her mother had to work nights and did not have a provider for her except for an elderly grandma. And then she would sleep during the day. So Katie was pretty much left alone in her room with her brother. Her brother ended up jumping out of a window and was found wandering the streets. And he was in a shelter for a couple months before anyone took him because he was 5 years old and had no language, no toilet training skills. He was very, very delayed. He was almost like an animal. When Katie came, she was kind of the same way. And, Katie just jumped in there. It was hard for her to trust anybody. It was hard for her to be together as a group because she was so used to being alone. So she would get mad or angry. She would hold her breath and make herself pass out. And, I could not understand that, but I think it was her way of just leaving the scene and stepping out. Katie was very shy. She would not talk. She would not do anything. So when she was 4 years old, we said, well, let's get her into dance classes and see if that will help her. And her teacher made a comment that, Katie, you did that very well. And I was sitting in the waiting room watching her, and I saw a smile on this child's face that I had never seen. Like, wow, you can hear mom and dad say something, but when you hear somebody in the outside world tell you that, that's pretty special. So Katie has kind of found herself through dance. And she's just an awesome kid. Colton is Katie's brother. He is 15 now, and Colton is very much to himself. He always has been. Katie and her brother, they were pretty much left to tend for themselves. No one to change the diapers, so there were no diapers. If they had to use the restroom, they just used wherever they were. They had feces in their hair. They had head lice, which a lot of kids have head lice, and it's not necessarily because of neglect, but just dirty filth, no clothes, no nothing. Old stale food. When they went in there, they had also found out that her brother was a victim of child sexual abuse. The birth father had been taking pornographic pictures of him, and that's why we think he did not talk. I was at some kind of a church auction, and there was a camera, one of those one-step cameras, where the picture comes out automatically. And he saw that picture and he kind of freaked out, and I didn't know what was going on. And he's, no. And he kind of came up to me, and I put two and two together after talking with him. And those were the types of pictures that they took of him so that it didn't go, I assume, so that it didn't go through a, camera, like Walgreens or wherever to get developed. Developmental processing, it just had instant photos. But that click of that picture, when I was playing with that, set him off, and we got him into therapy. And I think that he knows that what happened to him was not because of anything that he did. He was a victim, and that his life goes on. Colton will never be a rocket scientist. He'll never go to college, but that's okay. Colton is alive, Colton is happy, Colton is thriving, and he has his daily chores that he does, and he does them perfectly. But cognitively, Colton does not know the days of the week. He doesn't know how to count, he can't read, he can't write. But in his heart, he can love, and he can always help you. If you're out there raking your yard, and he sees that you need help, or there's still one more leaf to rake, he'll grab that rake, and he'll get out there and he'll rake it up with you. Very tender-hearted. JC. JC is a little boy whom we got when he was 5, and he is the brother to Kendall, who had the scurvy. We got JC from the shelter, And JC kind of reminded us of a caged animal. He just ran around the house screaming with his hands over his ears. No language, wouldn't talk, would not eat. First morning we had him, my husband fixed French toast. And we put the plate of French toast in front of him. And I poured the syrup on there. And he's just, no, really afraid of the food. And so I dipped my finger in the syrup and I put it on his lip. And I said, JC, taste it, taste. And just, no, scream. So I walked away, left him alone, and I looked over there and he started to do that. And his eyes got big, but he wouldn't eat the French toast, but he kind of played in that syrup. And one of the kids said, that new kid, he's gonna get his hands all sticky with the syrup. And I said, that's good, he's never touched syrup, it's okay, everybody do it. So I had everybody kind of finger paint with their syrup and they're giggling because they're like, Mom, we're not supposed to play with our food. And I said, guys, we're showing him that the syrup's not gonna hurt him, it's okay. So all the kids are putting their hands in their syrup and putting it up to their lips and they're saying, JC, look what we can do. And then they showed him how to dip the French toast into the syrup and then eat the French toast. We didn't get that far that day, but we did get that syrup on his lip. And then later that day, he didn't eat lunch, but he saw that jar of syrup and he pointed at it. So I gave him the syrup again, put it on a plate, and I gave him a spoon. And I know a lot of people into nutrition are probably gonna say, oh, that is so wrong. But for our son, it was right because it showed him something that tastes good. Give it a chance, buddy, it works. And then within about a week, he was dipping his French toast into that and he was starting to eat. And I don't put anything past this little guy. He can be anything in the world he wants to be, and we're gonna make sure it happens. Zach is my pumpkin that I did not have the opportunity to have him as a newborn baby because he is the little brother to Carissa. And Mom was in rehab when she had Zach, so he did not test positive for drugs, and birth mom was really working on it. But when they moved back to the area and Mom kind of got back with the wrong scene, she came to us for help and said, would you take the kids? So Zachary was actually about a year old before he came to live with us. Great kid. He's also a kid that is always trying to please. This is my little Corey bug. Corey is 5, and we got Corey right from the hospital at birth. Corey is the younger sibling to Carissa and Zach, and he tested positive for drugs. And so Mom knew that he would be placed in protective custody. So she called and asked us if we would consider taking him. And of course, like I said earlier, we do like to keep the siblings together if we can, if we have the room and the opportunity to do so. And we did have the room for Corey, and we were allowed to take him home. And he's been with us ever since. Corey has ADHD, and we do see some signs with the nervous system from the drug usage from birth, but he's doing great. Jamie was one of the first children that we adopted. He was adopted along with 4 other children. Jamie is now 20 years old. He was born with a cleft palate. And he had low-functioning birth parents that didn't really know how to take care of him. He was living in a homeless shelter with his birth parents after the hospital, and he became very sick. When he got to the hospital, he was so dehydrated that they had to shave his head to get IVs into his head. He was in the hospital for a few weeks, and then he came to our home, and his mental illness is mental retardation. But boy, I tell you, teddy bear heart. He's always been a wonderful kid. Jamie is another one that will never be able to live on his own. We will always need to be there for Jamie. He loves the bowl, and he's a big Green Bay Packer fan. So we got him the Packer bowling ball. We got him in Special Olympics. and he has won the state bowling tournament a couple times where he gets to go to Des Moines through Special Olympics, and he feels normal. He doesn't think there's anything wrong with him, and to our family, there is nothing wrong with him. He's just one of our many beautiful kids. Aaron is our 12-year-old pumpkin boy. He just turned 13, and he's going on 25. Aaron was found at some people's house. His birth mom was on drugs, and she went to a party, and she got so high that she forgot that she had a newborn baby with her and left the party without him, and nobody really knew who he belonged to. And he ended up in the hospital because it was in December and all he had was a diaper and a blanket. Ended up in the shelter, and they called us to take him. And it was on New Year's Eve. And I said, I'm sorry, but our family is going to a hotel to celebrate New Year's Eve. And I don't think that is the right environment to bring a newborn baby. And you know, I hope you find a good home for him. The next day they called me and said, are you back from your hotel? And I said, yes. And they said, well, we were waiting because we want him with your family. Would you like to come get your son? And we said, yes, we would. And so we went to the shelter and picked Aaron up. And this is Joey. Joey's birth family had other children that were already placed in a home, and they decided they had enough and that they couldn't take any more of this sibling group. So they called us with Joey. We got Joey at birth, and he's just been a godsend. He's a wonderful little boy, but he was always a fussy baby, and we never knew why he was fussy. Everything seemed fine with him, so they thought it was some of the drug withdrawal, and it was just taking him a little bit longer to get rid of some of those signs and symptoms and all that. Well, things went okay most of his life. He's now 15, but when he was 13, he was starting to get migraines, and he was getting them a lot, so we took him in, and he has a growth between the sinus cavity that can't be removed. It's like a little bone growth, and they can't remove it, but we're thinking that might be applying pressure, this little tumor that is not cancer. It's just there, it's a nuisance, but that is what's causing some of these migraines. And in the last 2 years, they've gotten worse to where he had to quit soccer and quit doing a lot of his overnights with his buddies and his friends. And Joey will come up in tears because it hurts so bad. So we feel for Joey right now because he is under physician's care, but we're just having to try different things to find what works for Joey. The remaining 4 that we adopted, Cassie is married, and she's living in a smaller town a little ways from here, and she is a severe diabetic and does have some health issues. And then we have Ryan, and Ryan is an upcoming music star. Him and his roommate are working on some CDs that they're promoting. Kayla is our daughter, who is 21, and she's just had her own baby, and she lives in her own apartment with the baby and the baby's daddy, and she's doing wonderful. She works at a daycare center. And then Ricky is my other son, who's 22, and Ricky's living with his girlfriend, and Ricky's kind of a free spirit. Ricky's kind of finding his own way. My birth son is now 31, and when I started doing foster care, he was around 5 when the idea entertained us. And I know there's a lot of people in the community and out and about that think, wow, I don't know if I could bring in one of those children into our home. I don't know if I could share the love between my birth child and a foster child or an adoptive child. And I have to admit, as a birth parent, when I first started doing foster care, I was afraid. Can I love someone else's child like I love a baby that came from me? Can I really do that after carrying them for 9 months and then have a baby that comes that you just get placed in your arms, or get a child that comes at age 10 and you're just getting to know them? It's hard to fathom. How can that love be the same for all of them? There are different types of love, but when it comes down to it, it all comes from the heart. It all comes from being a family, and it all comes from what is it for the kids. It's about these kids. These kids haven't done anything wrong. These kids may have been brought into a situation that wasn't the best. These kids may have never been able to have opportunities, but hey, don't blame them. It's not their fault. You know, open up your home, open up your heart. Let them know they can have their normal. They can be who they are. You don't have to be rich. We're not rich. We live day to day, but we're rich in our heart, and we're rich with opportunity to provide the children with. Give them that foundation. Give them those stepping stones so that when they grow up, they can go out in the community, they can break that cycle, and they can produce children and give them the opportunity that they deserve as well.